Welcome to Confidence with Kathleen, hosted by me, Kathleen Diggle.
Hey, welcome back, everyone. Today I'm with Kindyl Scruggs. Kindall, thank you to accept to do that podcast with me. You know, I was very exciting because you don't came down here very often, and each time that you are coming, I'm telling you, I try to see you all the time because it's been a while that we work together. And even Kindall, she's one of the first American that I work with. We worked together since, you said, 2016. 16, yeah.
So 8 years.
Yeah, 8 years now. So it's pretty cool. Eh?
It is.
And you were in
St-Tite, Quebec, at the Festival Western.
Yeah.
And with Bull. Mm-hmm. And that was actually the first year that I won the festival.
Yeah, so it was really cool. Anyway, we can talk about it later. But why you are here this week?
I'm here for the Women's Championship Rodeo in Fort Worth. It's been going on since Monday. It was the May 13th, and we'll run at AT&T in the final round on Saturday for 60,000, hopefully.
Yeah, I hope so. But can you... How come? Because it's a little bit complicated. You know, I was reading that and I'm feeling there's how did you qualified for that?
So the Women's Championship Finals is what I'm going to call a sister company to the WCRA, which is the basically they are it's kind of hard to explain, but it's a kind of a weird nomination type setup, and then they have what they call a segment rodeo. So in January, I qualified to go to the Stampede at the E, which is a WCRA segment event, and I did well there. And so you nominate rodeos or barrel races or other events that you go to. So you're running, basically it's like a side pot. You're running for IPRA money or WPRA money or just barrel race open money. And you can take that run before you run and nominate it to the WCRA. Well, you can also nominate it for the women, what they're calling their women's finals, which is in Fort Worth this week. So I nominated, obviously, for Guthrie and made it to their finals at Guthrie. And now it's their second segment, which is in May, just happened in Fort Worth, to make the women's finals. And so it's kind of cool. You get to run your horse for double money or points and only one run, which is obviously every barrel racer's goal, to not run their horse as much as they can.
Okay, and how many times did you run this week?
So the first round was Monday, and I drug the first barrel over Monday. And I would have won second in the round and automatically advanced to Saturday. So when you make the women's finals, it's kind of a weird system because you can either advance through the average to the finals on Saturday, which is the top 8. They have a challenger division. So that's also another thing that's kind of cool is if you're not, say you're a youth or maybe you only go to jackpots, you're not a pro, what they're calling a pro division qualifier. So I think it's anything over 10,000 if you win in the WCRA, or there's other ways that you become a pro. But since I won the 10,000 in January, I had to nominate for the pro division. That's where my nominations had to go. So they had the pro and the challenger, 2 separate races, and now we'll all run against each other. The finals, there's 6 in each, so 12. We'll run at AT&T against each other. So you can make it back. The top 4 in the average and the top 2 from each go-round make it to what was yesterday at Fort Worth at the Stockyards was their semis. So then from the semis, you run against 8 and 6. You run against 12 and 6 advance. So Ryan Padone was first in the pro standing, so she automatically goes to AT&T. So that's a good, kind of incentive to nominate more barrel races or rodeos through the year. To be seated straight to AT&T. She was there all week and still ran, but she didn't have to. And so then I didn't nominate that many, but what I did do was I made it to the semis, honestly, kind of by default, because so many people that were seated straight to the semis and straight to AT&T were above me in the average, and I had hit a barrel, so I wasn't advancing. It's kind of funny. I went in there and I was like, just make sure before I leave I didn't advance, and they're like, you actually got last hole because of the people who were seated were also above you in the average. So we bumped down and took, and I was the fastest time with a hit barrel. So not something that usually happens in the barrel race.
No,
you never get back like that. So I made it back last hole in the average. So my only way to go to AT&T through the semis, you either had to be the top 4 average or the one who wins the round in the semis in your division. So I won the round yesterday in the professional division, and then that's how I got into AT&T.
It was an amazing run.
Thank you.
Because the day before we went for dinner together, and I was like, you need to win that run. I didn't want to make pressure on you, but you know,
it was good.
And you did it, and your horse is amazing too.
Thank you.
And so congratulations.
Thank you.
And so you will run Saturday.
Right.
I will be there. I promise you I will be there. And then, but did you, like your horse, what do you do, like to prepare him, or what is all your background to? Because I know you have a lot of horses and you have others that you like too.
I do. So I'm probably a little different than others. I don't have the funding like a lot of other people, you know, that lease or ride other people's horses, however all that works. My parents are great, and they've always kept me on good horses, but my parents are not horse people. So they think spending $100,000 on a horse is insane, and I agree, it is crazy, but you know, people do it every day. So when I was little, my mom she bought me a pony, and she thought I was crazy, and it was a fad, and needless to say it wasn't, but so she bought me a horse for $3,500 when I was 8 years old, and she thought, this is crazy, I'll never get this money back, and you know, it's gone crazy from there. But when I was in high school, I kind of started riding some horses, kind of not really for other people, but for myself. I would get a cheap horse and try to sell it for, even if it was only $500 more than I paid, just like trying to kind of learn about horses and selling them and that sort of thing. And then there's a lot of people around home, you know, I give a lot of lessons and help a lot of kids there at home. And so I'm always riding after work, etc. But I've never really spent a lot of money on horses. So when I do see a deal on Facebook, usually is honestly where I see them. Or if someone's like calls and says, hey, this horse is not very good, but I think you could probably get by it or sell it, make some money, I usually take advantage of it. And this horse was the same way. His name is Chrome. And he came from some kids in Georgia and he was a nice futurity colt, but he kind of got in the wrong hands and had some pretty bad, you know, maybe a year or two of not great handling and that sort of thing. He was just not in the right hands. And I think that happens a lot with young horses. You know, people sell them or raise them, whatever the case is, and put their kids on a horse that they don't need to be on or that they don't match with, whatever the case. And that's how he was. And so I got him, and I've had him about 3 years, but it's been a hard 3 years.
It was an up and down 3 years. I can say that. And
conformationally, he's probably a little lower quality conformationally than a lot of the barrel horses. He just kind of has long pasterns, and he has a short back, and so it's hard to keep shoes on him, and you know, so he does have things, but every barrel horse does. He works hard, and I get along with him, so I like him. And
you have one too at your house that I know you're in love.
Yes.
So it's one of your projects too. In the same time, you really like that horse, but it's a funny story, and it's a good thing because you are small and you're doing so great on it. Can you talk about?
Yeah. So I do have a stud pony, and his name is Jack. He is a saint, and he is my whole entire heart. You know that more than anyone probably. But he's a 1922 pole pony. I actually accidentally raised him. So I bought his mom as a project to sell to a kid. They're from a lady at home that has always raised halter ponies and show ponies. bred down from cutting horses. And she just kind of got too many and was like, hey, look, do you just want to take this pony and sell her? And I'm like, sure. And so I buy her. And at the time, I'm riding horses for a guy there at home. And so we just kind of kick her out, not thinking about the fact that he has an old stud there at home who is a nice stud, but not a, he just was a local stud. And he's a son of title contender, so he was fast and big and pretty, but never really was anything. He was too old by the time I started riding for the guy, and he had kind of gotten out of it for a little while, and now he's back into the big time breeding program, and he's got some nice studs now. But I always joke with him and tell him that Jack is the best accident that ever came from his breeding program.
Yeah.
But he does, and so now I breed and sell and everything you can imagine with ponies. So yeah, it's great though.
Yeah,
Jack's
but
fun.
that pony is very
He is.
fun.
He is.
And in the same time, he's a little bit not crazy, but he's very good.
Right. He thinks he's a big horse.
I remember the first time that you sent me a picture of him. You didn't tell me that he was a pony, okay? So I start talking with him, and oh my God, that horse, he was like, I'm big, I'm that tough. And I was like, and even when you told me he's a pony, I'm like, no, you say your horse, you call him pony. You said, no, he's a real pony. I'm like, oh my God. He has a big personality, and he really thinks that
he does.
He's the king.
He is the king.
He's the king. But you're doing amazing with him. Each time when I see her run, it's so funny to see him run. And
he really doesn't run that much slower than a horse. I always tell everyone, if he was 4 inches taller, he would be the best unregistered stud there ever has been because he would have enough speed. He runs in the 2D at the open races there at home, and he runs 19-second poles. Most horses don't even run 19 seconds in the poles, and so I always tell everyone they're lucky he's not 4 inches taller.
Yeah. And then you did a couple times to the IFR. You did the final a couple.
Yes,
I think
made the finals 9 times.
9 times, it's not,
So my first time was before I started talking to you. When I was in college on the blue horse that I had in college. He was great. Big, ugly, nothing special, but he was very nice. Made the college finals on him, and I made the IFR on him my first year. I think it was 2013 maybe, at Oklahoma City. And then after that, I just kind of piddled around the house some and went to some IRA rodeos, nothing crazy. And then that's when I found bull. And then I met you in Canada, and that was the year that I won my world championship, and I won St-Tite, and on a 5-year-old. It was his first year to rodeo, and it was a long year. It was hard, but he did it, and he's probably the best horse I'll ever own. And he's crippled now, but he was pigeon-toed and had bad knees. But he is a superstar. Now he's the babysitter of the group. He's turned out with the yearlings, and he raises babies and lives his best life.
Yeah. And in all those rodeo that you did, which one, do you like?
Oh, St-Tite will always be my favorite rodeo.
I know, that's why
I tell everyone that. Everyone's like, oh, the NFR, and I'm like, no, you've never been to St-Tite. There's nothing like St-Tite. They do a great job. The production is insane. I always tell, I have a lot of friends that pro rodeo, and I have a lot of friends that don't rodeo, and I always tell everyone there is nothing like St-Tite, Quebec. There is not a comparable rodeo. There never will be. Never has been. I've been to a lot of rodeos. I've made the college finals. I've been to the NFR, watched. I've been to, the IFR. I've been to big Calgary. I've seen a lot of rodeos. There's no comparison.
Yeah, all the stand too, and every night it's a big show, and people are crazy.
They are crazy. The Canadians are crazy.
The French Canadians.
The French
Canadians, yeah. Not all, I'm not. No, I can be too. But we had a lot of fun, and it's 10 days that it's amazing over there, and you cannot imagine how many people, and
right. And that you try to explain it, and you can't.
You can't.
You cannot explain it.
You have to. I know. I went there. I think more than 18 years old.
Yeah.
So it's good memory.
Yes, for sure.
So because you went to Canada and you did other too, so what do you do on the road, for to keep yourself, in good shape and to keep your horse too sound and things like that? What is your program a little bit?
Okay, so I think everyone who runs barrel horses knows that a horse's stomach can make or break you. Actually, probably one of my favorite things to tell people about when I call Kathleen, because of course all my friends, anytime anything goes wrong, call Kathleen, call Kathleen. I'm like, no, we're not calling Kathleen. We can figure this out a little bit. We don't have to call Kathleen every single day. And so I think probably my favorite thing to tell people is about the time that I called you and Bull couldn't breathe. And you were explaining to me that whatever he was eating was messing his stomach up and he couldn't breathe because he's allergic to the hay that he was eating. And you told me to pull over on the side of the road and take the hay bag from him. And so ever since then, probably one of my main things that I do is pull an allergy panel on everything. I want to know what they can and can't eat. I want to know, I know dust is everywhere, but are they allergic to dust? Are they allergic to dogs? It's crazy. You think people have allergies, but a lot of people don't think about what allergies cause in a horse. And I think that a lot of reasons why horses have so many ulcers going back to their stomachs is due to their allergies and what they're eating and not supposed to be eating, and that sort of thing. So for me, my first thing that I want to look into when I see a horse or get a new horse in, or, if I'm going to rodeo on somebody else's horse or whatever the case is, I want to see what the allergies they have and what their stomach looks like. Whether it's through you or scoping them at the vet or looking at their airways or that sort of thing, because I have learned in the last few years that, when a horse has allergies and they're eating something they're not supposed to eat, makes their intestines swell, makes their stomach hurt, that sort of thing. And once you get past a certain point, it's hard to come back. It takes a long time, to get their stomachs back.
And Bull was allergic
to everything.
Everything.
Alfalfa hay was pretty much all he could eat, which is now everyone's doing the cubes. But was he allergic to the chemicals that they use to firm the cubes or something like that? So I just went straight alfalfa hay, and he was a different horse, and it didn't take long. It was a week or two, and he was a completely back to how he was before, when I first got him. And it was such a, we were chasing our tail with him, and, back injections and all kinds of stuff and muscle relaxers because his muscles are so tight. And you're chasing your tail, but I always tell people that I help, if you don't find their issue, the root cause of why they're hurting like that, you'll always chase your tail. So, and I think so much of it comes from allergies. And I'm not saying that's the only thing I do, but it's the first thing I do.
The first thing you do. So at least
what I need to be, what kind of program do they need to be on? And every horse is not the same. I think a lot of people back in the day, or cowboys, or people who, don't rodeo or whatever the case is, they just feed them oats and hay, or corn and hay, or sweet feed and hay, or, whatever the case is. And I think that we're a little past that at this point.
Okay.
So that would be my first thing. My next thing would be, do they bleed? What do you need to do to make sure that their lungs are healthy, their airways are clean, that sort of thing. So I do scope them quite a bit at the vet. As far as like preventative maintenance, soft rides are great. My horses always have soft rides or PHT on their legs or back on tracks, anything like that. And I do like the spa. Honestly, my routine's probably not any different than anyone else's as far as you keep them as fresh as you can and as healthy as you can. Take them to the vet, as much as you can. And it sometimes does seem like you're running circles, but as much as you run them, you couldn't expect to do anything different.
And I know you have a good farrier too.
I do. I love my farrier. Everyone knows I love my farrier.
I know, but we had a lot, because very often you had, I remember one time with Bull, I don't know if you remember that, but you called me and you're like, Bull is not feeling good. I'm like, I was feeling that his feet were burning. I was like, put it in cold water, it's burning. I think it's like, and it was a hot nail.
Yeah.
But and then your farrier, yeah.
Yeah. No, my farrier's great. And poor Cody. I have a lot of horses with not great feet, because it's, it's hard to find a horse with good feet because there are so many bad farriers, or people who just don't put shoes on their horses or whatever the case, bad diets. I think that makes a big difference in a horse's feet. Or like not good conformation. Bull had pigeon toes.
Mm-hmm.
Now Chrome has long pasterns. It's hard. I think a lot of people they don't stick with their farrier long enough. I've used Cody for 10 years now,
Mm-hmm.
and he's had some really bad feet to fix or try to keep shoes on, and we've glued on and all kinds of stuff. And so he always jokes, and he's like, the next horse you buy, can you just make sure it has good feet?
Yeah.
Can you give me a little bit of a break? But he does a great job, and so I'm thankful for him. It makes a big difference.
It makes a big difference.
Mm-hmm.
So we talk about your horse, but about you. I know what you do, but do you do something to, for yourself or to keep you in good shape or things like that down the road, or not?
I probably don't do as much as some people do, or as much as I should. I do think being with the right people, I think, is a big deal. Or, if you travel better by yourself, I'm going to say I probably focus more on the mental side of things than the health side of things. I'm not saying I love to say I work out every day, but I don't. I have worked out and I try to work out, but it's not at the top of my priority list as much as it should be. I think that the main thing about winning or preparing to win is more along, and I'm not saying eat all the candy you want and that sort of thing. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying try to stay thin enough, because at the end of the day, this is a timed event. That whatever way that you choose to do that, I don't know. I would rather not eat than eat healthy, as much as that's probably not the right answer. But for me, I think mentally, a lot of people struggle with how to win and when to do certain things or not. I think a lot of people aren't good mentally as much as I do really focus on that. So I'll read, I like to listen to podcasts, or I like to listen to books on, like iBooks or that sort of thing. I like to listen to pump up music, those sorts of things that mentally get you more prepared. And I do think I'm a pretty strong mental person, as far as, just because I'm not doing good doesn't mean I'm sour to everyone, or not saying I don't have bad days and I can't be sour, but typically, I try not to complain about ground. I try not to complain about things, because I feel like the more you complain or the more you're in a sour attitude, the worse everyone around you is.
Yeah, go ahead.
And so, and it took me a long time to realize that, but I think if people would be more grateful for what they have and think about what they have versus what they don't have or what they can't do, I think that gets you a lot further than, well, this rodeo, the ground was bad, and now because of that, now this happened, or because of that person said that, now I feel like this. Just don't worry about that. Worry about yourself and what it takes for you to win, and leave everyone else out of it.
It's just because you were talking, and I just remember one morning I went in St-Tite to see you a morning, and Bull was mad at you. Do you remember?
Because I didn't have my Red Bull?
Because you were more there's the morning before, I think you just went, I don't remember why, but it's just that you went and you were not as aggressive
as ready
as usually, and he was so mad that because you are there and you are focused, and I think it was just for a practice event. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think it was the morning before the slats at St-Tite.
Yes.
And so I was like, we already had ran one, or it was our first one maybe. And I don't remember what it was, but I do remember you saying, you need to get ready because your horse is not happy.
He's not happy because that morning
because he's so used to me always being ready, having everything just so. And everyone that goes with me can tell you, it gets like a little annoying. Like, I want my boots clean. I want my trailer clean. I want everything just so, because that is like a mental thing for me. If there's clothes everywhere in the trailer or dog hair, I have dogs, and most people, you have dogs, so you have dog hair. No, not in my trailer and truck. Like, we clean the truck every Sunday when we get home. Everything is just so like ready, full of fuel, water's full. It's for me, like mentally, if everything is just so, it's so easy to get ready because you're ready.
Mm-hmm.
And I was not ready.
And you were not ready that morning. I remember he was so mad. He was not happy at all. So I'm like, next time, drink your Red Bull or do something. And you did it. Because in Canada, we didn't have Dr. Pepper. So.
Right.
So you have your routine for you and everything. But I know too that you have, even if you argue sometime with your horses, but you have a bond to them and you listen to them. Is that something?
I do. So like we always joke about Jack. Jack is me in horse form. He is very sassy. He knows what he thinks is good, and he's very strong opinionated. Like if he thinks that it's supposed to be this way, and for some reason I tell him it's not, there's a little bit of a block there. And so I do. And Bull was, very more so opinionated.
Yeah.
Even when he was wrong, he was right, and it was a lot of times a fight for me and Bull because he had his way of doing things and that wasn't necessarily how I wanted to do them. So we kind of had a little bit more of a fight. Whereas Jack, you can kind of talk him into, well, no, like it really does need to be this way. And he will come back and listen. Chrome is a sweetheart, and you remember when I bought him, you said, I don't know if this is going to work because he's too nice. And so they all do have their own personalities, and just like we've talked, I don't do well with mares. They're too opinionated for me. And everyone says, well, a mare will try their heart out, or they'll do this or that, or once you get bonded with them, and I just can't, but for some reason I can seem to, I really have told you too, I think I like studs the best because I think that the willpower in a stud for me, and not saying it's every stud, but I did get a great one. And I think there's a little bit of a personality, just like with people in all horses. The horse that I have now out here, he's a saint. We did go through some hard times. I don't think it was a mean thing with him. I think it was a I don't understand thing because he had been made to do it wrong so many times. And then when you try to explain to him the right way, it's muscle memory, just like for a person, a person that looks at the barrels, for instance, that you're not supposed to do that. So when you are trying to tell them how to not do that or why that's not right, they don't understand when they go fast. So I went through a thing with Chrome where, I was slow working him and he would do great at the practice pen, and then you go to the rodeo and you try to go fast and it doesn't work. And so that's when you and I talked about how my program needed to change for that particular horse. He needs to go fast at home. He needs to learn to go fast at home, which is not something you want to do with a barrel horse because it's wasting runs. And I understand that, but I think a lot of people maybe don't know as much about like reading their horse, not necessarily even when something's wrong, but maybe how do you practice that horse to make it better.
Because he was able to understand you when you were showing him and in your slow work, but to go fast,
it went back to muscle memory.
Yeah.
Which was wrong.
Yeah.
And so it took us a long time, and we had to miss some rodeos and that sort of thing to go to jackpots to go to run exhibitions, because then it got to where he would do really good at home, even going fast, but then you take him somewhere and it's right back to muscle memory again. So for me, and I do know, I read them when I'm able better now, through your help and just like backing off a little and learning about my horses a little more when maybe they don't feel good or when they're stressed, or, like for instance, if Chrome is at the trailer bobbing his head, his stomach hurts, give him something for his stomach, or, maybe hang a different type of hay in front of him or something, of the sort. And I think a lot of people maybe either, not that they don't care, but maybe they don't know.
Or they don't pay attention to necessarily to those.
And, like know your horse. Like my horses don't do well in stalls. At home, they have a pen out behind their stalls and they want to be able to see outside. So I don't go and stay certain places. Maybe it is extra driving or more money or whatever the case is, but I go and make my horses be comfortable where they're at, so other things don't happen like ulcers or colic or, stress, anxiety, that sort of thing.
So Saturday, is that a big night?
It is.
Okay. But what are your goals after that or for the summer?
So I actually, the beginning of this year, my goal was to go as many places for as much money as I could. So not necessarily like win a world title or win a certain rodeo or win AT&T or that sort of thing. Obviously all of that's great. None of the money that I've won this week will count for my IPRA standings because I've already maxed out the 10,000 that I can win and count for the IPRA from the WCRA. And so, of course, I'd love to win the 60,000 because that's a huge goal. Mm-hmm. My goal was to win as much money as I could. And you know, I'm missing some good rodeos at home this week. Some good IPRA rodeos over by the house, and but into the rest of the year, I would say the same thing. Go as many places as I'm eligible to go and win as much money as I can. My horse isn't in any incentives. He is from South Florida, and he is by a South Florida stud, kind of a, you know, different type situation than most people have right now. So I can't go to any of the ruby or pink buckles or anything like that. So I'm not eligible for that type of money. But, you know, I'm going to go to the WCRA in the Carolinas in October. You can win like 20-something thousand there. So that's a good, you know, a good paycheck. There's some good jackpots by the house. There's, you know, there's all the high stakes stuff like that. Mm-hmm. And then, of course, I'm going to go to St-Tite this year. I haven't gone since COVID. I have not been to St-Tite. So.
Me either.
So I'm going to go to St-Tite this year.
Maybe it can be something we can do together.
Yeah.
Why not?
Exactly. And so, you know, there's actually a lot of good, bigger IPRA rodeos this year. Jackson, Mississippi has a huge IPRA rodeo. That will pay probably close to 10,000. You know, I feel like anytime you can win around 10,000, you're doing pretty good, especially 2 hours from home. Mm-hmm. And so, you know, he doesn't do great at jackpots. He's a good jackpot horse, but he's not a superstar. He loves the crowd, that sort of thing. He is very pretty, and he likes attention.
And I think you prefer the rodeo too.
I do prefer the rodeos.
I agree with your horse.
Yes.
That he really likes the crowd,
right,
and everything. But I
do too. I don't like to sit in the same place for a long time. Mm-hmm. And my horses don't do good in stalls. You know, if I can go to the rodeos and build pens, they're happy, and I'm happier at the rodeos. You know, I've been to some pro rodeos. Not that I'm an IPRA person, that's not what I'm saying, but I think that maybe I've kind of like just have a little bit better, it's a little more comfortable to me, and also there's not any close pro rodeos that are good to me in the summer, and so I would like to say I would go, you know, west and pro rodeo some, and I don't think I will. I think I'll go to St-Tite and I'll stay kind of closer to home. And I don't love to be 20-something hours from home. My mom and I are very close. And I have a job. So, you know, go as close as I can to home and win as much money as I can.
Yeah. But your job, you have very good owners.
I have really, really great employers. They're a very close friend of mine.
Yeah.
The Wilburns, I help their kids. I work for them. We're like family. And so they do let me go, but they junior rodeo and they're gone a lot in the summer. And so it makes it a little more difficult for me to be gone weeks at a time.
Yeah.
You know, like you would have to do to go to the big pro rodeos. And I'm not saying I don't plan to do that, but probably not this year.
Hey, man. So good luck for this Saturday. You know, I really hope the best for you. And probably when that podcast will be online, you will already run. So I will put that run at the end.
Thank you.
At that podcast. So thank you. And good luck for all your other goals. And, you know, if you need me, you know where to go.
I do. Thank you.
Thank you. So, as you know already, Kindall won the Women Rodeo Championship with a 15.384. I had the chance to be there with her during the day while she prepared chrome, and I was with her on the back of the arena. I went with her. It was a lot of emotion, very fun experience. I'm very grateful. And again, Kindall, congratulations, you really deserve it. And thank you to let me be part of your team and to share those moments with me. Thank you for sharing your time with me. Please make sure to follow, like, share, subscribe on all my social media, and don't forget to leave me a review. If you want to learn more about me, visit my website, horseconfidence.com with a K, where you can also order my book.